Today, as we dive in to look at this amazing, rare Namor on Throne statue, a few things run through my mind. First, what am I going to have for lunch? And that bitch Jill. But I'm wondering, as I look at a lot of throne statues behind me and right here, usually they make their throne out of things that are either dear to them or near to them. So I wonder what my throne would be made out of. I'm guessing statues, steak, and of course the skulls of my enemies. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. Today we're looking at this custom 1/4 scale Namor on Throne statue. So a custom is a private unlicensed commission. They only made 35 of these. Namor is argued sometimes as being the first mutant ever made. Not the first comic book character, mind you, but the first actual mutant. And if you're unfamiliar with who Namor is, the best way to describe him nowadays with the DC Universe going on and the Justice League is he is the Marvel equivalent of Aquaman, although I believe that he actually came out first. He's from Atlantis, he's a prince, he's half Atlantean, he's half human, he has a lot of the same powers we're going to talk about. 1/4 scale means that if this was here in real life, it would be 4 times larger. So today we're going to take a look at this amazing piece. I'm super stoked to have it in my collection. If you guys are unfamiliar, look behind me. I love comic-based throne statues. I love any type of throne statue, but specifically comic-based. And this one has so much crazy cool stuff going on. It actually reminds me of my 1/4 scale Aquaman statue. You can actually check out the review right here. Now that one was crazy and totally elaborate. And what's really strange is this one actually looks like it has a lot of similar features. Almost like that person who made this was copying the person who made that. That's an inside joke some of you may get and some of you may not. But as I said, a little bit more about Namor. Namor was actually around for quite a while. He actually fought with Captain America back in the 40s, and then he re-emerged after a long time. Very popularized in a lot of the Fantastic Four comics. And I remember that from growing up because I was a big Surfer fan, so I was big into Fantastic Four comics. And he would most of the time actually fight against them, but also with them. He joined the Avengers. A lot of history of him being both a hero and an anti-hero. Now what's interesting about this, the individual who actually commissioned and produced these statues is all about comic accuracy. He'll forget more about comics than most people know about in their entire life. And this is actually from a Jim Lee art print. You can check it out right here. Now there are a few twists on this because there are some switch out options we're going to talk about. But overall, I'm going to tell you right now before we dive into the in-depth review, no pun intended, in-depth, but this piece is phenomenal. They knocked it out of the park again. Super stoked to have him in my collection. Now he's not the only Namor I have coming. Since I'm going to put him with my throne statues, I have a Fantastic Four setup, cosmic setup over there at the entry into the basement. So I'm actually getting this custom Namor to go over there as well. But nonetheless, let's kick it off and start with concept of this piece. Now, a lot of times with throne pieces, you actually do see their fallen enemies somewhat incorporated in the throne. I like the fact that this is different. So this is obviously underwater, and you don't know if this is in the kingdom of Atlantis. I tend to think it's not. I tend to think it's kind of a makeshift throne, which, like I said, he is a prince, so he should actually have some type of throne. But you have tons of aquatic life going on here. Not necessarily live aquatic life, some live rock, some other plants. You see a seahorse, you see a small fish on the side, and his throne is actually made out of rocks and a giant clamshell, which is pretty cool. As many people have said in the pictures I posted on Facebook and Instagram, he doesn't miss leg day, but if you were sitting like this, your leg muscles would be very protruding, quads and thighs would be very big as well, not to mention the fact this is based off of the specific artwork. He's sitting what I would call very stoic. Very somber, very serious, which Namor always was. You know, he didn't have a lot of a sense of humor. It did come out in certain comics, but he always seemed a little bit unhappy. And I think this really displays that as well. So I'm digging that quite a bit. You see his trident in the back with an eel over it. I just love every part of this. Very stoic. It's what you want when you think of a king or a throne piece. And I think they knocked it out of the park. Everything about it showing the aquatic life. You clearly know, even if you don't know who this character is, that it has something to do with water. So I think the concept is a 5 out of 5. I wanted to match the Jim Lee concept. I think they wanted to show Namor how awesome he is because he has some pretty cool powers. In summary, he has super everything. super strength, super healing, super speed. Just like Aquaman, he can control other sea creatures. Now, one difference is he can actually fly. These tiny little wings that he actually has on his ankles allow him to have super speed when he flies. He can fly faster than airplanes. Enough of that, let's talk about design. Now, this had one of the craziest packing jobs I've ever seen, and there were still some casualties, nothing I'm going to lose sleep over. But let's start with the unboxing and assembly, and I don't know why I keep doing this. It did come in 2 cardboard boxes. There was also an inner cardboard box instead of an art box with your standard black custom foam and straps. So this was layer number 1. And when everything was removed, you can see what's going on right here. Now, what was crazy was each piece was wrapped over and over and over with bubble wrap. Then on top of that, the number of black pieces of foam within every piece, there was probably 300 different pieces of black foam. Here is the second layer, which consisted of the base and a few of the accessory pieces. And then the other box actually had the throne statue that sat straight up. Namor is permanently attached. Alright, so the damage is this reef or live rock right here was broken off. Here's a picture of it right here. However, it glued on back perfectly. You can't even tell. The other damage was these pieces fell off right here. 2 of them are the seashell necklace, which we'll look at in a second. The other piece, I don't know where it came from. But the back of his necklace was unfortunately broken. Now, thankfully, it's the back, which you will never ever see. So I'm okay with that. Now, there are 3 display options for the portraits, and I love them all. First one is what he looked like when he originally came. This is the Namor that I grew up with. This is how Jim Lee originally made him. While it's not my favorite of the portraits, I love how true it is to the comics. Then there was also a Jim Lee more modernized portrait, and I really like this one as well. And then a Dio portrait as well that looks pretty cool. And really quick about the pronunciation. Namor is how I pronounce it. If you don't like that, your mom is probably making your sandwich for lunch today. You can go cry to her. And if you don't like that, I'll just call him the Submariner, which you probably like Submariner better too. So you can never please the fanboys. Actually, I recently told the members of the Extreme channel that sometimes I mispronounce things because I don't know how to pronounce it, but sometimes I mispronounce it on purpose just to piss some fanboys off. Now back to this guy. So unfortunately, because you have switch out portraits, there is a nasty seam line. Right here on the right side, here is the seam line. Now the only advantage to this, it's only on the side. So if you're looking at it from the front, which is how he's going to be displayed in the Maji case, I will never see that. However, when you have a guy without a shirt, there's really no way to avoid seam lines if you're going to do multiple portraits. Also, I suppose the trident here, if it's too tall for your display, you could remove it, which I may have to, because the exact height is right at 24 inches. Maybe one tick above that, and the case is 24 inches, so we'll see how that goes. The widest point is probably about 18 inches, give or take. And the depth on this is a little over 12 inches or so. It's a very, very heavy piece as well, so keep that in mind. That's really it with design. I can't think of anything else. So it's not perfect. I had some broken pieces. Everything fits together really well. I do dig that. You have the seam line. packaging was great despite the broken pieces. So since I'm worried about ever reshipping this, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 on the design because there's just so many intricate pieces that are probably going to break if I reship it. Now we'll dive into the paint and sculpt, and it does not disappoint. It rarely does from this particular group, and I'm just stoked to have this in my collection. But this is what I'm talking about. Check it out. All right, so let's dive in. First, look at the additional portraits. For the most part, everything's very similar other than the hairstyle. The expression, I mean, is like I said, very, very similar. So first, the 2 Jim Lee ones. This is kind of the hairstyle that like I said, I grew up with the character. And I like what they did. There's a little bit of blue in there, and I like how it's streaked back. It looks really good. The overemphasized eyebrows was the classic trait of him. Paint job on all these is amazing. Look at those eyes. Really impressed. The eyelashes above it. I like the colors they used. It's kind of a wash between a darker color and almost like some gray you see in there with those flesh tones. The lips pursed together. Looks fantastic. And then here is the modernized Jim Lee portrait, I believe. It's very similar to the Dell one, but I love the hair on this. You don't have as much of that blue hint, but I love these large strands, that kind of this spiky feel that it's all over the place, whether it's like gel in there or necessarily maybe he just got out of the water. Where the other portrait is more slicked back. So very similar, but you don't have that front of the face. And then you can see some of the facial features that are different here. This is probably my least favorite because, like I said, I'm kind of used to the Lee style. And I believe his eyes are blue in that. Now, in the comics, he goes from black to blue to green to brown eyes. So it's kind of difficult when choosing what eye color you're going to go with. But let's look at the base here. This is just amazing. This Aquatic Life, a lot of it looks real. Not only the quantity of colors, but how clean they are and the way they just make them pop. The greens and purples and pinks and reds and blues and beige colors and browns. A little seahorse, one of the only 2 aquatic animals there, looks fantastic. I like this smooth rock surface that turns into the throne chair, really reminiscent of clams. And that orange color of this fish just makes it pop. But I love this. It looks fantastic. Like I said, it looks almost like a real Aquatic Life. I could imagine looking at this at the bottom of an aquarium tank. Aquarium is a tank. An aquarium. The shell looks fantastic as well. I love the colors on it. Not only the bright colors on the bottom shell or the other side of this darkened shell right here. It's very smooth, but it has kind of this painted in texture. The ridges right here. They just did a great job with this base. And here it's more colorful. Would have been cool, I think. I like the darker side of the shell on the other piece if somehow it was reversible and you could display either one. And then the chair he's actually sitting in has a lot of those mix of the purples and blue colors. His trident looks okay. It's probably the weakest part of the statue. You can obviously tell the paint on it and has almost a little bit of a plastic effect and a little bit of unclean paint where this eel or snake is wrapping around it. Nothing, negligible, but definitely if you're using, microanalysts, you will see it if you're microanalyzing as that analyst. Let's look at the star of the show. So first, let's talk about his anatomy. Very bulk guy, as he typically is, and I think he looks great. I like the shadowing that they used in between the muscles. So you don't see a lot of pink in the flesh tones, which I'm digging. He has his gold gauntlets right here. And then the thighs, like we talked about. Now, if you're sitting down, especially pushing your feet towards the back like this, it will really elevate the width of your thighs. So I think that's pretty decently accurate as far as anatomy goes. Plus, it's very similar to the cover. Here's his wings. I think they look great. They remind me of like almost a statue. I like how they have this older feel to them. Remember, these are supposed to be feathered wings, so sculpting them into polystone, I think they did a really nice job. These big old clown feet down here. Could have used a little bit more separation in the toes. I love the shell necklace, even though the fact the back is broken. Little piece on there. Overall, just really impressed with this piece. It really stands out. Few minor flaws that are hard to find, but overall the execution is pretty phenomenal. All right, so first, paint. I think the paint is immaculate. It is super clean. I couldn't even find any areas I would improve other than on the Trident that we talked about. I love how the different colors, so not just the actual execution of the paint, but the direction of the paint. I think because of the variety of colors and how it pops, it really takes it from a 4 to a 5 out of 5 on the paint. I think one could argue it's a 4 out of 5, but I'm rating it a 5 out of 5. Now, regarding the sculpt, I love Namor. I love the base. There's so much, again, intricate detail. I think it's kind of in the same boat. I think someone could make a good argument it's a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5. We're going to go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5. You know what? 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. I am really digging this piece. I absolutely love it. Like I said, some people aren't a fan of the thigh area, but that's what I look like when I'm sitting down. Of course, mine's due to fat, not due to muscle. All right, so let's talk about the value of this sucker. $1,000, a little bit under, $997 I think it was the original early PO price. They already made 35 of these pieces. That right there to me is a really good value. 1/4 scale piece, a large 1/4 scale piece with all the throne and everything else that's going on. I think normal retail, like if you look at a licensed piece that was mass produced, you're probably looking at 800 or so. But then you do have to include shipping. I think shipping was 300 or so, which unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, nowadays isn't that bad. So you're like $1,200 to $1,300 all in for this piece for how rare it is. And there is a decent market of collectors for thrones. And like I said, Namor, a lot of people who are really into comics love Namor, especially the fact that this embodies a lot of the original Jim Lee stuff. I think the value is a 4 out of 5 on this. I think I could definitely get my money back easily. However, like I said, I'd be scared to ship it. But nonetheless, very, very worth it to me. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? You know, I think it's in the running for one. I don't think it is a 5 out of 5 statue, but it's damn good. I mean, this is one of those pieces that I ordered, a couple years ago, at least a year ago, if not 2 years ago, and you kind of forget about it, and then you lose the hype a little bit, and then he finally gets here. I love some of these portraits. I love how serious it is. I love the detail in the base. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I really love this piece. I know some people may disagree with me, but that's the beauty of being a human being. If you are also a human being and you want to see more stuff like this or maybe win that prize, go ahead and punch that picture of me to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification, drop me a like on the way out, and make sure to comment. This may be the video we pick. Talk to you soon. Take care.